We are recording and we'll get started here on time as people continue to join. Hi, everybody. My name is Doug Brudke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. This meeting is one that we had originally started on Clubhouse. Debbie knows that well. I don't think we necessarily met there, but there were a lot of interactions there that we've had over the years. We switched to LinkedIn live, LinkedIn audio, and I think it's not anymore. They made an announcement. It wasn't. I tried to schedule something there and it didn't seem to work. So we've switched over to Zoom. The purpose of this is just so the global tribe has an opportunity to share information and meet up with other globies. And every time this meeting starts, I think of the long walk I used to make from nearby Gotanda Station in Tokyo and walk home. It took about almost an hour, mostly uphill, up Sakura Dadori, and kind of switched through into some of the neighborhoods. And I was alone with my business suit and my black attaché case, and I'd walk past people going to the bathhouse, and I wonder, wow, I'd like to share this with someone, but I'm kind of alone here. And so it allows us, maybe not so within dramatic circumstances, share with others, but at least I do know that all of you have amazing experiences on a daily basis, and not everybody gets what you're going through, but we get it here. So the purpose of this is that support. It's also to hear about what's going on. And one of the great things that's happened, lots of great things have happened in the last few weeks, including Davos and including CES, and many of you have been to that one. And so we're going to kind of start there. I did mention earlier before we started the recording that there's a couple people will start on the CES conversation. I'm not sure, Bill Edwards, if you were at CES, but I actually do like to start with you, given your 50 years of experience and across all segments. I was talking to you yesterday, or talking about you yesterday with a consulting company from Japan yesterday over coffee. I think they actually, we had introduced them to you, and they need your help, and so I'm sure that'll happen at some point. Bill, would you be able to start the program here today and just tell us, it has been a turbulent month. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of noise, and I know you cut through a lot of that noise to be able to help us keep our feet on the ground. It was great to see you in person last weekend through the Global Chamber Los Angeles Strategic Advisory Board. A smaller group met at our home and talked about the future of the chapter and our growth plans and some events and things like that. And Bill also shared some of the things that he's working on. Always amazing things. Bill, what are you seeing out there, and is there a reason for hope?
There's a reason for hope. There's always reason for hope. In addition to my paid job, which is exporting U.S. brands into other countries, I have a pro bono job, otherwise known as not being financially compensated, with the U.S. Department of Commerce. And yesterday spent 10 hours up in Los Angeles with U.S. Commercial Service and companies, 25 companies that are involved in exporting, trying to make sense of what's going on in the United States as far as policy. And the answer is there is no consistent policy. It's basically, and this is not a political statement, it's basically throwing ideas up against the wall and see which ones stick. And unfortunately, that leads to uncertainty, leads to a lot of uncertainty as far as businesses planning for the future. The group of business people and government specialists believe it'll probably calm down in the next month or two, but right now it's very uncertain as to what the policies are of this government. So uncertainty is not a word that international business people like. I think everybody on this call probably would agree with that. And so we're trying to get through that uncertainty and figure out what's coming next. But I actually am very optimistic about the future, but not the next few months. I think we'll be still seeing some new quote unquote policies on trade and finance that'll make that we need to figure out what they mean in order to decide where we go to do business. Why do I say that? Well, when a government imposes tariffs on another government and that other government imposes tariffs back on us, on you, then sometimes the poor little business person in the middle that's trying to do business in a country is negatively impacted because sometimes that people in other countries think that we are representatives of our government, heaven forbid. But that's where things are right now. I'm probably spending half my time on that, on trade issues, trade policy. I'm not sure there is one at this point in time, and what the impacts of tariffs are. The tariffs are having a huge impact, especially on small to medium-sized enterprises. I'll just tell you one thing quickly. When a company exports something from this country, they have to have a bond. They have to get a bond from the government about what it is they're exporting, because it has to be approved, and how much it's going to cost and what the fee is to sell it. When you impose instant tariffs on something, it changes the cost of the goods, services. Therefore, the bonds over the weekend, the bonds were all canceled. Now, that means that an immense amount of the exports from this country are now on hold until the Customs and Border Patrol, CPB, bless their soul, figures out exactly what they want to do with the policies on trade to places like Canada and Mexico, China. So it is a little bit of up in the air, and there's a lot of people trying to figure out what to do with it and how to solve it. I am still confident that it's going to be resolved, but it's going to take a few months. That's what I have to share, Doug. I hope that's worthwhile.
Got it. No, that's worthwhile. Any questions? And I also want to make sure that one more thing, that on the positive side is Randy's Donuts is coming to Tokyo.
Yeah, my company worked for Randy's Donuts. We've taken them into quite a few countries, and I don't know if any of you know what a Randy's Donuts is. It's an iconic U.S. LA brand that's been in the movies, with this gigantic donut on the first restaurant that was 52 years old right next to LAX airport. And the first one is under construction in Tokyo. So that Doug's all excited about that. So,
Debbie, it's coming your way. Did you find out which neighborhood in Tokyo it is?
I have not had time to do that, Doug. I've spent most of my time the last few days on the trade issues.
Okay, I was with the group that is interested in you is Yamada Consulting, and so that was his first question. Well, where is it? They're in Marunouchi.
I will get that for you, Doug. I will get that for you today.
They're close to Tokyo
Bill
Station.
A quick question?
Yeah.
Bill, this cancellation of all bonds, is that for all countries or those that are impacted by the tariff discussions? China, Canada, and Mexico.
Any tariffs that the U.S. has imposed very recently is for those countries alone. And although there's rumors that the EU is going to be tariffed, and maybe even UK, that it's irrelevant right now. And actually Canada and Mexico are on hold for 30 days, but unfortunately the Customs and Border Patrol, who monitors all inbound and outbound, mainly inbound goods and services, stopped doing anything until they got clarification. I think that's a good word, from Washington. So it's upended a lot of exports. People are keeping things from going cross border right now. It'll be resolved, but it won't be instantly.
Hard question. Based on your experience, do you think this is going to take a week, a month before this issue with the bonds, exporting bonds, will be clarified or reversed?
The people we were talking with yesterday that are in the government and doing business estimated it would take 1 to 2 months to straighten out. One person said 3, but someone who's heavily involved in it in multiple countries believes it'll be resolved within 1 month. It's new. It's a new world. We don't really know what all is going to be the bottom line, but it will be a change, and it's coming all at once. But
Okay,
again, I'm very optimistic. There was a very interesting statistic in Bloomberg about 2 days ago. The U.S. put 10% tariffs on almost everything coming from China, and that's $532 billion of goods and services. China retaliated by putting 15% tariff on some things. Those things total $14 billion. Not 500, but 14. So the Chinese made a lot of noise, but they didn't really do much. Okay. So it's every day is a new day. I noticed this morning in the Financial Times, there's some new policies that are being talked about. It's a state of flux, but it is the world we live in, and we'll have to adapt. I see Francis is going yes with his head. It's just something we have to work with. In my years of working international, there are 2 words that keep coming up: flexibility and adaptation.
One market that came up in yesterday's conversation was soybeans and the potential impact that might have, particularly in California. So much of them from the U.S. go to China. What do you think some of the impacts will be there?
I don't believe soybeans are on the Chinese list.
Okay.
It's coal, LNG, oil, and I forgot what else. But when you're looking at 14 billion, which I know is a lot, versus 532 billion, it's not as much as it sounds on the news. The Chinese are being extraordinarily careful.
Okay. Any other questions for Bill? Yes, Debbie.
Yes, Bill, thanks so much for that update. I was just talking with someone the other day from Singapore, and they're doing an Aging Asia show in April, and they were looking for US exhibitors and trying to get me to help them pull people together. And beside the short runway, which was one thing we were discussing, they were very interested to know what the US government was doing to promote trade. And I said, you should just forget about it this year. And, let's look at next year, because it's just not going to happen this year. And I'm really interested in what you had to say because of that. Do you know?
Yeah, I think you're right, Debbie. I think we have to just wait and see what all comes out of it. We have certain trading partners that we have free trade agreements with, like Korea, Don Southerton down there, and some people are worried that even some of those are going to be disrupted. But Don, I don't think there's any evidence of that so far, and I haven't heard anything that would make me think there's any difference. But when we have a free trade agreement, then that means that there's no tariffs, theoretically, right, Don?
Well, I'd say that Trump had renegotiated the original one. So again, I think what will happen is that, like last time, even with the last trade agreement with Korea, Trump goes and cuts some sort of deal with the government to buy, U.S. jets or something. And so as long as he has a quid pro quo going on, I think that we won't see it. And because so many of the Korean companies have built large infrastructures here, I think, and in red states, I think that he's going to be a little more careful with them. But everything is on the board. He has not mentioned. He's mentioned, as you said, EU next, probably maybe UK. He hasn't mentioned Japan or Korea. But both of them have come forward with some pretty lucrative deals. every administration likes to be able to announce, we have just cut this new deal. And Korea is lined up to do a couple things, I think, in the near future. I was in conversations over the weekend a lot with some of the senior leadership of Hyundai, and they have plans, so, they're going to make some sort of announcement. Samsung has already said that their plants in Mexico, they probably will move some of them to the US or some manufacturing. I'm sure LG will too. So as long as you're doing something that Trump can see that there's some sort of, I think he'll stay away from those issues,
Hyundai has a huge presence here in Southern California, obviously.
Yeah.
It's very, very obvious as making investments and a presence. So I think that'll turn out to be good for Korean companies.
What the cars that are not being made in Korea and are being made in Korea that are being shipped here, they've moved those lines more and more. So the Kia plant in West Point, Georgia, originally was 2 models. Now it's about 8. There are they sort of promote American-made Kia cars, and Hyundai, of course, has the plant in Montgomery, Alabama, and then they have their new mega plant in Savannah. And I think you'll see other announcements soon on maybe some steel production here and that. So these companies have sat and watched things unfold for a number of months now. As you mentioned, the uncertainty is something that Koreans do not like. They like stability, as Japan does, and so they have countermeasures in play. What was probably most upsetting, and I was doing a text back and forth on Monday, was they had already sort of prepared for the 25% tariff on Mexico, and then he removes it, or he puts it 30-day delay. They actually would rather have I think, announcement that something was set versus this always switching. And then less so with Canada for them, but I do know that there was a lot going on. And the reason is that within the car industry, these are multi-billion-dollar industries. They need lead time. Every month you have to have cars showing up at dealerships. They have to have a plan for that. And when you have a disruption like that, and then you keep switching back and forth, it's more, that creates more uncertainty than if they had just set, this is what it is, this is what you can plan for. But because they keep putting these delays, and then I think you're going to see a lot of exemptions. And it's who has come forward with probably, the most like that. But it is interesting times, and I think both of us were pretty busy over the weekend tracking down everything that was going to happen, and with it, not only with the media but with companies, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and I think that probably the 30-day delay gave them a little bit of breathing room. So, but
thank you, Don. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Bill, any other comment about that?
Just that the U.S. has over $1 trillion a year trade deficit, which means that's going out and not coming back. And so the one thing I can guarantee you is that there will be change under this new administration.
For what it's worth, Global Chamber Chicago had a meeting next week, I think, with the Customs and Border Patrol at their location, and they started to hem and haw a week or so ago, and they did come back this week and said they thought they would be available to host an event at the end of March. So the perspectives, at least the local, they actually even talked about talking with each other and predicting when they think their lives will be back into some sort of normality. So sometime in about 2 months. So that coincides a little bit, Bill. Maybe optimistic, maybe pessimistic. We'll find out.
Well, that's a guess.
It is, yeah. Mi-Jung, as long as we're talking about Korea, could we get your perspective as well, and we'll begin to bridge over to the CES event. Mi-Jung Hibbets is the executive director for Global Chamber Baltimore, Washington, and she has been going to CES for many years. And so it'd be interesting to, first of all, hear your comments kind of to finish off this conversation, and then maybe segue into CES and what you saw this year that was different, and what gives us pause for both probably more positive things.
Yes, thank you, Doug, and then everybody for sharing Yeah, hi Dan, and Debbie, it's nice to see you here again. And so we're talking about previously about the tariff and this uncertainty, and it's really true. That I feel that, and just the conversations with the companies in Korea or operating here in the U.S. As Dan mentioned, and also Bill mentioned, really the uncertainty and really how to the prepare or the mitigate. I think that's really big on everybody's mind. It's not about Korea, but the same thing. I'm doing one meeting this coming week, next week, on LATAM and Puerto Rico, Latin America, and I hear a lot of interest because there's a lot of the changes coming on the market as well. So, but I mean, as everybody said, we'll have to actually see. And I heard, the people are just waiting, what really the concrete, the policy will come out. But we are going to live in the world of tariff, and then that's something that we have to deal with. So just to be informed, and then the changes, and also strategize, right? How to still find the opportunities and grow during this uncertainty. I think that's what we have to give advices on the companies and the players in the market. So from that on, the moving to CES. It was really great that was involved with just regular activities that I usually do at CES, but this time we had also big memorable event with the Global Chamber, and then also Incheon, the IFES, and Dan was really involved in helping that as well. I guess there's a lot of other experts, who can talk about, what they actually saw, but with the limited time, that I have, my first focus is always to engage companies, South Korea companies, try to enter the U.S. market and meeting them and reconnecting them. That was one. And the second is learning, like, the new trend, the market trend and technology trend. And for that, everybody agreed that AI was just in everything, right? So we had for Korea cases, there were more participants from the last year. I must say, like, big existence, like, at the CES. And in terms of getting innovative award, the number was very, very impressive. So saw a lot of, great, innovation and potentials. But then always I talk to, the companies. It's important to be there and then get recognized, but the how to really make those opportunity into more tangible and feasible, the opportunity. It really required some of the strategy, in advance, and the follow up and etc. But overall, I think it was really great, for me, and then also the Incheon, Global Chamber exchanges some MOU with the Incheon IFES, and there was one of the highlights of the CES in terms of my experience this year.
Very good. Thank you, Mijong. Let's keep going around the room. And one of the extraordinary leaders I've had the privilege of knowing for many years here in this room and overall is Paul Charles. He's been now a member for quite a number of years, and we've known each other for much, much longer. He, besides being the co-founder of American Battery Factory, has a long career of being involved with so many really interesting projects. And so, Paul, when I heard you speaking when we talked here in the last few weeks about your experience at CES. First of all, sorry we didn't get to meet there. There were a few other people there. Somehow we missed each other. And you had some really interesting perspectives based on your really interesting background. What did you see there? What should we be thinking about?
Well, first of all, thank you. And yeah, we've known each other for what, 15 plus years or so now. I was originally in Scottsdale and moved up here to Utah. But yeah, CES, what, 47th year, and it had been a number of years since I'd actually been to CES. But 140,000 of the closest friends, right? 2.4 million square feet and 4,500 booths. And when I go to when I go to trade shows, I really try to walk and talk because it's the best education, frankly, that I can get to be able to get out there. So I probably did close to 4,000 booths. So I was out there looking, observing, asking a lot of questions or so on this. But I had three areas, I guess, on CES, and this is, I think, my 8th trade show in the last few months. Fortunately, I was just attending and not speaking or chairing at this particular one. I was in Dallas last week at the Battery Gigafactory conference on that. As Doug said, I've been involved in many different industries over the years. The last 4 years have really been targeted specifically in the battery energy sector, and this is really on a global basis, onshoring, not just to the U.S., but other locations around the world, of trying to set up ecosystems. It seems that everybody outside of China has the same goals, which is energy independence. And so China's had 20 years to take initial US technology that we literally handed over and to perfect it, scale it, and to create really an amazing competitive advantage from that perspective. But going back to your original question on CES, kind of three categories. One is AI, next is robots, and the other is electrification. As was described earlier, AI, yes, it is in virtually everything, literally to the point now where it's like, don't mention it, as part of your company, because it's just assumed that you are using it. If you are, you're kind of lagging a bit with that, but it is a significant impact throughout virtually every sector that I've seen and been available to have insights with. In the battery sector, it is
Okay, wait a minute. So can you forward me the email? Because that doesn't really make
Oh,
sense to me. How can they do that without?
Demetrius.
which email?
Uh, I think that's Demetrius. Hold on. And now I muted the wrong person. Sorry about it. You need to unmute Paul. Sorry. Oh, Paul, you need to unmute. Are you able? Yeah, sorry. I muted you by mistake.
I apologize. What's the
No.
last thing you heard?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Demetrius started talking. She must have come into the room, and that disturbed the flow a bit. I tried to mute her, and I muted you by mistake. So sorry about that. Please just continue where you were.
No problem, and kick me under the table when you've heard enough here. But AI, like I said, is prevalent in virtually everything that's out there, and it's been described to me essentially like pre-internet days, essentially. And I've talked to folks that have been involved with this for over a dozen years. We're going to have a tough time understanding the impact that AI will have in virtually every facet of our lives. And that provides for uncertainty, but it also provides for some incredible opportunities to really get ahead and to make some meaningful discoveries and advancements on this. On the battery side, they're using it literally to figure out what the best compounds, the best way to put batteries together are. They can literally simulate millions of different environments and come up with, here's a half a dozen ones that we actually should take forward into the laboratory with this. On the robot side, it's pretty cool to be able to be walking around and having robots come up to you and interact with you. And these are, two-legged interactions that have AI overlay on this. And so it's been a long time in coming. And the third area that I'll elaborate a little bit more is the electrification aspect. And this involves, once again, just about everything from these wearable glasses that are pretty cool that have AI projected onto the lens, to a lot of different EVs and EV tolls. It's truly happening with the change in the incentive programs in the U.S., particularly with the IRA. My projections on this is that the EVs will not grow as quickly, but it is happening here in the US. And then on the energy storage aspect of that, when you're pretty much on toll, on par, and actually in some situations lower cost than traditional fossil fuels, energy storage will be a huge, huge area of continued growth. But look for e-mobility growth as well too. A couple interesting highlights. They had a lot of commercial and industrial manufacturers there, everything from Oshkosh to Caterpillar, Kubota, Komatsu, you name it. And the big commercial equipment is now becoming electrified, as marine applications as well too. You're going to be seeing ports literally fully electrified, and that includes the new cargo ships that'll be coming. Those will be running, at least initially, in a hybrid mode, with having batteries as one key element on that. One cool company called AC Future. It's actually a Bay Area firm. They're addressing three different modes all at one time, but in a very innovative way. I thought was pretty interesting. Is they've come out with an electrified RV. It kind of looks like a typical one, but very nice designs. Pininfarina did the design on this, but their pop-outs are true rooms. I mean, these are, 100 square foot pop-outs that you can literally, live in, have an office in with this. That's one area. The next area that they're addressing simultaneously are the trailers or outside the U.S. caravans that are fully electrified on this. And then the third area is the accessory dwelling units, the ADUs, which are really needed in many metro areas in the US and around the world or so. So their whole idea and concept is to have these things fully electrified and to be able to move forward in addressing kind of the mobile nature of what's going on in the US. A couple other quick comments I did want to make is that totally agree with the change comment. The only change, the only constant is change. Has been something that I've looked at over the years and kind of lived and breathed that. Within the government itself, the Department of Energy is totally getting revamped. The LPO office, which is the loan processing office, has a new leader in there, and they're looking to walk back billions and billions, perhaps hundreds of billions of dollars worth of loans. The IRA will be affected as well too. They've pulled back the $7,500 EV tax credit. They're looking at other implications on that. A bright spot, and somebody had mentioned earlier, is an XM bank. I've seen multiple groups that have announced $400 to $800 million loan guarantees through XM, and so that might be the new bright spot in terms of getting financing for the battery sector. It's a very challenging time out there, there's no doubt, because most of the componentry and the ecosystem is coming from China, but Korea is going to have an incredible opportunity now. They're not part of the FEOC. They don't have the tariffs on them yet, hopefully not. And I really think they're going to have a positive impact upon what we're doing in the US and other places in the world. So I'll pause. I could go on a bit, but questions or thoughts on the subject at least?
Amazing. Thank you. What questions do people have, please? Please go ahead.
Can I ask a question and then also a
Sure.
comment? So Paul, thank you very much. Just wondering, I mean, it's not the broader CES, but your industry, battery energy storage, the industry, what's really the big change happening right now? And then this tariff and uncertainty, does that affect you in any ways? And then I'll mention something about the XM that we are actually working here in Washington, D.C.
No, that's great. The change in the last 4 years, there were literally just a couple few gigafactories, and essentially what a gigafactory is, it's a term that Tesla Elon had coined, but it's a factory that produces 1 billion watts worth of energy store of cells at various types of chemistries and size and formats on that. We've got dozens of gigafactories that have been announced, but I tell folks, remember the quote from Thomas Edison many years ago, there's liars, damn liars, and there's battery folks. So just because you see something in the news, don't necessarily believe that it's real. Some companies have some incredible PR focus and skills in that area. But in terms of change, you're going to start seeing some of these companies that simply don't have the financing available. These are massive CapEx projects. In general, you can figure $100 million per gigawatt. So a 30 gigawatt facility is $3 billion. All right. Think about that for a moment, especially where interest rates are at on this. In general, it's anywhere from 66% to 100% more to build a battery cell in the US today. And so these IRA incentives of $35 per kilowatt at the cell level and $45 per kilowatt at the module level literally are the make or break in order to have a US ecosystem that can compete day one with China and allow for that scaling to come up. So what you have been seeing is the start of an onshoring of an entire supply chain at the battery cell level. And it'll be interesting to see how things are affected with that. China has in some of the components and some of the end products a 25% tariff, and there may be an additional 10 on top of that. But there are literally companies in the U.S. that have been building a business model on buying all the parts and pieces from China, bringing it here, and putting an end product together, still wanting to get their incentives. That may or may not go away as a loophole on this. But what I can tell you are the Chinese manufacturers have resources, they have capital, they have know-how, and they are coming here in many different types of economic structures. Some are limited to that 25% or less equity position, and they're getting their other 75% from other funds around the world. Others are coming in here with zero equity, but a profit share. Others are literally handing over their entire book of business for North America. And then once again, taking a rev share or profit share associated with this. So there is a tremendous amount of change that's occurring. This upheaval right now of not knowing what's going to be there from an incentive perspective has the potential to impact substantially the entire sector. What I can tell you is EVs will indeed slow down a bit, but still have growth. But that energy storage sector is just a booming. Did I answer most of your questions on that?
Oh, yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. Just to talk quickly about the EXIM, because Paul mentioned about the EXIM. EXIM annual conference is coming up in April, and then Global Chamber is really has been actually working with the EXIM to promote and help American exporters to go global. So this time we are also suggesting some speakers at the conference, but I can tell you one of the agenda is really the energy and the nuclear, and so pay attention to that. I think that's up on our event site on Global Chamber as well. It's in April, Doug.
Yeah, I think we had it up, but now we have more information, so watch for that. That's actually a surprisingly positive information from this. Historically, Republicans have been against Exim Bank and have been fighting and trying to end it. So Paul, your comments that kind of reverse that thought process. So that's really good. What makes you think that they're going to be more involved going forward?
Bottom line is the interaction that I've had, particularly this last year with them, has been extremely positive. They, believe it or not, as a government agency, they have been proactive. They have experts that are able to work in the minutia with you as well. One of the companies called Lyten, Lyten, based out of Reno. One of the executives was on a panel last week in Dallas, and he was able to explain they've got, I think it was $850 million loan guarantee out of XM. I mean, that's a huge deal. That really allows them to move forward with their new technologies that will make it a lot easier to actually make battery cells in the U.S. It's a non-lithium based technology. but that's the second or third that I've heard of on the XM Bank side. And once again, these are loan guarantees. Typically, they can put direct dollars in, but it really should be viewed as a loan guarantee. So they're gonna be able to work with conventional banking on a global basis, but they're going to have a much lower interest rate. And the interest rates have, in the last 4 years, have gone from very low to kind of scary. And so the pro formas that have been put in place in the past have changed drastically. So you're going to see fewer players get involved with this, but those that can get lower interest rates, all the better. The other thing that I'm personally involved with is putting joint ventures together. There's a old company out of Switzerland called Loconche, 100-year-old battery firm, and the one of the groups I'm working with is helped to put together a joint venture. So they're going to stand up a gigafactory in the Middle East, plus Germany, and plus bring about $600 million to the table. So you're going to see some interesting types of financing models that are moving forward with this.
Okay. Bill Edwards, your work with the government and the District Export Council, any additional comments that you'd like to make around that or Exim Bank?
Yes, one of the members of our District Export Council has 6 XM Bank projects underway right now. And the good news is that Marv was able to find them all in their offices this week, and they're not subject to the potential government employee situation because they're a separately owned organization that's separately funded.
Yep.
So they're actually working.
Okay.
Thank
Don't they
goodness.
report directly to the president? I think
They do report directly to the president, but they are a separate organization. They're a separate corporation, actually.
Yep.
It's funded separately.
Interesting. Very good. Let's keep going around the room. Thank you, Paul. There's so much to unpack there. We'd take hours, but we're going to plan to wrap up at the top of the hour, and there's still a few people that we'd like to speak with. One of whom is the amazing Debbie Howard. Deadline Debbie, she is someone who's not only got her finger on getting companies into Japan and the work that she's done there and living in Japan and understanding the market and helping companies be successful through the Carter Group. But she also, through her own experience, has become involved with the aging and taking care of aging parents and others within your family. And that's been a passion of hers. And she's had an amazing impact on the world with companies, the technology involved with that and everything, getting companies to rethink how caregivers are treated. Debbie, this was your second time to CES. You had mentioned that the first time was a bit overwhelming, like it was for me this time. This time you had your finger on the trigger. You're ready to fire on all cylinders to understand what was going on. What did you see? What should we know about?
Well, hi everyone, and what a great conversation. I was so happy to be at CES for the second time this year, and I know the third time is going to be even better in 26. As you mentioned, Paul, it's a huge show, the largest tech show in the world, 150,000 plus. My corner of the blanket is what we call age tech. So it's all the technologies for our aging populations globally. And we had some very good reorganization for this year, 2025, bringing digital health over to the Venetian, where we also have Eureka Park with a lot of the startups and the country pavilions. And from my viewpoint, we have the Age Tech Collaborative from AARP, which has led the charge pulling aging adult type exhibitions together over the past, I would say, 5 to 8 years. And you've seen, if you've been going to CES, you've seen the attention on age tech growing as AARP, and it is a carve out underneath AARP called Age Tech Collaborative of AARP, has taken a leadership role in making a really quite a large pavilion there around which digital health now is organized. That used to be over at LVCC, but now they've brought that to the Venetian. So digital health, smart home, age tech, and of course downstairs Eureka Park with the Consumer Technology Association Foundation's accessibility exhibitions. This is a world where we're talking about products that help all of us to access everything through hearing assistance, vision assistance, mobility assistance. It's not just for aging adults when we get down to Eureka Park. So I'm really proud to be involved in an industry overall, age tech, that won't be touched by any of this other shit. Okay. I'm sorry just to say it that way. I mean, I don't even feel a minute of anxiety, right? We can develop these products in our own countries if we have to for a while. The train has already left the station, and the need is so great globally that we will surpass whatever other trends are happening. That's my prediction for today. When it comes to aging adults, I'm very bullish for opportunities for all of us in this room. I am a proselytizer for age tech and caregiving type products, so you have to forgive me for that. But honestly, I think 95% of all companies in the world could find a hook to talk about how you can help aging populations with your particular product or service. I'm just going to give you just a couple of things. You've heard me talk about the Age Tech Collaborative from AARP. I'm very involved with them. I'm not an unbiased reporter here. So, you know, I am in their collaborative, but they have over 600 members now, and they are a convening point for the industry, for startups, for services like mine, for investors and corporates who are now starting to invest in a lot of these ideas that our younger startups are coming up with. We also had another carve out from this ecosystem called Age Tech Atlanta. They brought 10 to 12 startups themselves in a booth, and Age Tech Atlanta is starting age tech groups in big cities all over the country. They've got Age Tech Chicago going, Age Tech New York, I believe Age Tech LA, and Age Tech Toronto. So they're starting to be convening points in cities for age tech companies. So if you know anyone in your cities, let me know, or look at Age Tech Atlanta as someone who's putting together some pretty good activity in the different markets. I would also like to mention 3 big trends that I saw. Thank you, Paul, for your idea on that. Digital health, tech applications getting more user-friendly, if you will, for older adults, and the convergence of different technologies into one product rather than single point solutions. We still have a lot of like one app addressing one thing, but we're starting to see convergence of a lot of the functions that we might all want. And Doug, if I have just a few more minutes, I can give people some really interesting examples that I think they might like of the products. Would that be okay?
Oh, maybe pick the best one, and then because we've only got about 10 minutes.
Okay, so it's really hard for me to think about the best one. I have 10 I could tell you about. Let me just mention one. Okay, I'm gonna just mention one because this one brings together what I really like to preach about, and that is the movement in healthcare from treatment to prevention. And this is at the base of all of our challenges with aging, right? If we could be more preventive with our healthcare, then we wouldn't have as many problems later on, individually or as a society. This is an amazing product. It's called the OnMed Care Station. This is a drop-in prefabricated module that can be put into a workplace situation or a remote rural area, let's say in a city office in a remote area that is losing its hospitals and healthcare, because that's another macro trend that's happening. And inside here, you sit in this booth and you can interact with a virtual screen of a telehealth provider, a doctor. When you're sitting there, the stethoscope and the hearing, some other hearing thing drop right out of the ceiling so that patient, you can just, the doctor will say to you, okay, now you see the stethoscope on the side, just put that on your heart and I'll be able to see, you know, I'll be able to give you a little checkup. They could do checkups on site in the workplace through this thing.
Amazing.
And yeah, it really is. And there's a blood pressure cuff sitting right there, like the one you might see at your grocery store right now. And you can just put your arm in there and have your blood pressure. So it's, I mean, it's not for like trauma treatment, but for regular checkups at the workplace. And this is very important, let's say, when we're talking about blue collar workforces that actually don't go to the doctor as often as they should, which is another part of the problem. Right? If you don't get regular checkups and you're not being preventive about your health care, like we're all going down, right? We're all going down pretty soon if we don't start being more preventive. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Any quick questions for Debbie? So much to
I had a
unpack.
quick comment on that. I actually stopped by and talked with those folks. What I liked about what you just presented, it was a combination of AI, but real video interaction with a real doctor and that ability to put those essentially anywhere in the world and have that combination there. You just didn't want to have straight AI. You want to have that overlay of that personal interaction. So that remote patient monitoring technology with that diagnostics overlay is really, really cool stuff.
Thank you, Paul. And I really do believe that I really believe in AI, and it is changing our world as we speak. And we do have a role for it in healthcare in many, many applications, but we are going to have to, you know, stay up close and personal with real people, even if they are through screens, when it comes to healthcare. So thank you all. Great to be here.
Thank you very much. We do have only about 7 minutes left, and so I would like to go around very, very quickly to a few people. I wanted to make sure that Alex Martin, or do you have just a moment to kind of interfuse the work that you do into the tariff situation?
Sure. We with all the 25% tariffs and 10% tariff rates, we're now working with companies to figure out ways to reduce the dutiable value of products coming that are being imported. And as an example, for Canada or Mexico, the 25% tariffs, we find that if companies can lower the transfer pricing or import dutiable value by $100, that's $25 in savings. And the reason we think we see this as being an opportunity is that when tariffs are only 2 or 3%, most companies aren't spending the time to do that kind of research. So, you know, to the extent you're working with companies that have, or your company is importing products from tariff hit or for tariff company or countries, this is definitely something to consider. And we just published an article on that. I'll post that for the group.
KBKG is Paul's company. He's based in Plymouth, Michigan, but working across the U.S. and the world. Definitely a resource to know. Eduardo Gonzalez is also in the room. And Eduardo, you weren't at CES, but you do a lot of work with Mexico. What's the view from that side of things? So do you have a moment just to say hi?
Sure. Yeah, unfortunately, this time I wasn't in CES, but I have been before. We had a Mexican pavilion a few years ago with several companies doing not AI at the time, but they were doing a lot of cool stuff with electric bikes and sensory type of technology. And currently, well, we're navigating the current situation where we have a month with the extension and the tariffs. And if the first time around was an example, I think this time around is going to be about the same. So nothing's going to happen. At the end of the day, it's a negotiation tactic. But of course, this doesn't help with long-term planning and having companies move their manufacturing. The other thing is that it's clear that China is the common enemy between North America, the three countries. So Mexico is still a good option for manufacturing or sourcing. So the nearshoring trend, I think is going to continue. Could be a slowdown. Could be it picks up. We don't know. And for those that don't know, what I do is I help companies locate contract manufacturing in the Mexico side, and we do help also on the business development, and I mean between Mexico and the U.S. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Erica, for next year, what are you thinking about for CES?
Well, compared to last year, CES, and this year, so many more connections were made with not only Global Chamber members, but those that traveled with our Global Chamber members. So it was delightful to see and hear from everyone that was attending, and it really gave a great space for people to connect, to do business together. And so for next year, we want to even enhance that more. And I think that a good takeaway from everyone were the valuable connections that were made. But the second part of it is loving having it in Las Vegas, because in the past, CES was always a big driver for the service industry, for the hotels, for all the visitors. Now it is giving highlight to the business that is being conducted not only in Las Vegas, but in the state of Nevada. There's a lot of these different companies that have been discussed here today, tech companies, AI companies, and others too, in manufacturing, that is really being concentrated in Las Vegas and brought in. So from that perspective, for next year, definitely want to focus on the opportunities that exist in Las Vegas. It's not just the casinos and all the fun things that are there. So we have some members in our Global Chamber Las Vegas chapter who are doing amazing work. So keep an eye out, because they're going to be showcased later this month. And AI is one of the things that they are focused on in their businesses, but there's other things as well. So I'm really happy at how many people came and connected through Global Chamber groupings. And I want to give a very special thanks to Don Southerton for all of the promotion he did, not just for IFES, but it really helped from the Global Chamber perspective too, with the Korean companies that were showcasing their startup companies.
Yeah, Don, thank you so much for all the collaboration. It was an awful lot of fun. We are at the top of the hour, so we need to get off the line. However, Bill Edwards, would you like to say anything in kind of a final word, and then I'll have 30 seconds.
Well, I think we heard from all these people that there are opportunities, but there's also uncertainty right now. So again, I go back to the two main words for doing business internationally: flexibility and being able to adapt. The business is out there. We'll get it.
It's part of being global and unstoppable. You need to have those characteristics to maintain your sanity and beyond that to be successful. So thank you, Bill, and thank you all for being that way. Our next conversation like this is a month from now. It's actually Friday, March 7th, and we'll have other topics to cover. I believe that's on our calendar, but we'll begin promoting that fairly soon. The big event coming up for us is the 4th Annual Global Chamber Semiconductor Summit on February 19th. It's February 20th in Asia, so it is one event. It's 5 hours of a conversation, and one of the highlights of that will be an interview with Stan Shi, the founder of Acer, and also on the board of directors for TSMC. He's going to be talking about the semiconductor industry globally. He'll be interviewed by Mayor Kate Gallego and former Congressman Matt Salmon and myself. And I'm just really excited about that, along with a lot of the other things that are going on. February 19th here in the US, February 20th in Asia. Thanks everybody for joining. It was a lot of fun. We didn't have enough time. We need another 6 hours, but let's get on with the rest of our day. Have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, friends.
Thank you. And one of the things that we missed was he stepped out already, I think. I wanted to have an opportunity to talk about nonprofits, because there's one of the things that came up with the energy projects, Paul, that you talked about, and the shifting of priorities, and nonprofits, I think, are going through the same dilemma right now. So there's a lot of uncertainty about where people are going to get their funding for, whether it's a business or nonprofit. A lot of people struggling right now.
Yes, globally, we're in a lot better shape than Europe is, I'll tell you that. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
In what way?
Just the fact that the Northvolt effect, at least in the energy sector, when you have a $15 billion entity that's pulled that in and still owes billions of dollars that went BK, it affects investment perspectives in the whole green renewable space. It really, really does.
Got it.
So
thanks for your expertise, Paul. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Doug, thank you to meet. We miss everyone. So hopefully next year we will meet everyone and we'll hang out. And Paul, I need your contacts. Please share.
no problem.
We can help funding anywhere in the whole world. So Global Chamber knows us very well. So thank you so much. We can funding any company. Already we are working with a South Korean as well as Israel. We visited Pavilion because it's not possible to visit.
Thanks, Pankaj. You guys, hopefully you're connected, and if you have trouble, just let us know.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
all.
you so much.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.